What if I told you there's a figure so mysterious, so powerful, that his teachings have secretly influenced humanity for over 2,000 years? A figure who bridges the gap between the mortal and divine, whose wisdom has been both revered and feared by kings, scholars, and mystics throughout history. You're about to discover the incredible story of Hermes Trismegistus, the Thrice Great, a legendary being whose very existence challenges everything you think you know about ancient wisdom and spiritual enlightenment. Here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. Hermes Trismegistus isn't just one deity, he's actually a fusion of two incredibly powerful gods. Picture this: the Greek messenger god Hermes, with his winged sandals and ability to travel between worlds, meets Thoth, the Egyptian moon god with the head of an ibis. When these two divine beings merged in the cosmopolitan city of Alexandria, something extraordinary happened. They became one entity, Hermes Trismegistus. But why should you care about this ancient figure? Because both Hermes and Thoth shared something remarkable. They were psychopomps, guides who could lead souls through the land of the dead. Think about that for a moment. These weren't just mythological characters, they represented the ultimate guides for humanity's most profound journey. Now here's what makes Thoth absolutely mind-blowing. He wasn't just any god, he was the inventor of writing itself. Every word you're reading right now, every book that's ever preserved human knowledge, every text that's shaped civilization, it all traces back to Thoth's divine gift. The ancient Egyptians called him the heart of Re, the tongue of Atum, the throat of the god whose name is hidden. He was literally divine speech personified. When you understand this, you start to see why the followers of Hermes Trismegistus devoted their entire lives to understanding his wisdom. They weren't just studying philosophy, they were seeking the same cosmic illumination that Hermes himself had experienced. And this brings us to one of the most important texts in human history, the Emerald Tablet. You've probably heard the phrase, "as above, so below," without realizing you were quoting from this ancient masterpiece. This isn't just some mystical saying. It's the key that unlocks astrology, alchemy, and every occult science you can imagine. But here's something that might surprise you. When we call Hermes a myth, we're actually recognizing something profound. He's greater than any single historical figure, because he represents a pattern that exists in every truth seeker throughout history. He's not just a person, he's an archetype that lives within anyone who dares to seek ultimate truth. The ancient sage Iamblichus understood this perfectly. He wrote that Hermes was common to all who practice the sacred arts, and that he who presides over true science concerning gods is one and the same throughout the universe. Think about what this means. Every genuine discovery, every moment of true wisdom was attributed to Hermes because he represented the very essence of learning itself. Now, if you're enjoying this deep dive into ancient wisdom, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-expanding content. Trust me, what comes next will completely transform how you see reality. Here's something that will blow your mind. According to the Egyptian priest Manetho, there were over 36,000 books written under Hermes' name. Imagine a library so vast it could fill an entire temple, containing secrets about the soul, creation, astrology, alchemy, magic, and healing. Most of these texts have been lost to time, but what remains gives us glimpses of knowledge so profound it's almost overwhelming. The title, Thrice Great, itself has a fascinating origin. Ancient records from an ibis shrine in Egypt mention the greatest and the greatest god, Great Hermes. That repetition wasn't accidental. It represented the intensifying power of this divine figure. Some say he was thrice great because he was the greatest priest, philosopher, and king, all rolled into one. Others believe it reflected his understanding of the Trinity itself. Fast forward to the 15th century, and something incredible happened. Italian scholar Marsilio Ficino was busy translating Plato's complete works when a manuscript of the Corpus Hermeticum suddenly appeared. This was so earth-shattering that Ficino immediately dropped his work on Plato, one of history's greatest philosophers, to focus entirely on these Hermetic texts. But here's the plot twist that changes everything. These texts had been compiled by an 11th century Byzantine scholar who had no interest in pagan practices. The only reason he would have copied them was to improve them for Christian audiences. This means the writings that reached the Renaissance were likely very different from their original form. The Corpus Hermeticum had supposedly been lost to the Western world since the fall of the Roman Empire. Yet somehow, these fragile pages survived the collapse of cities and empires. This is testament to something incredible, the power of ideas to transcend physical destruction. While material empires crumbled, these spiritual teachings endured. During the Renaissance, scholars developed a revolutionary concept called psychotheologia, the idea that a single, true theology exists in all religions, given directly by God to humanity in ancient times. This wasn't just academic theory. It suggested that somewhere in our distant past, mankind received a complete divine revelation that we've since lost. The traces of this original wisdom, they believed, could still be found scattered throughout the world's greatest religions. Hermes Trismegistus, the contemporary of Moses. But then the 17th century brought a devastating blow. Classical scholar Isaac Casaubon examined the Hermetic writings with a critical eye and found undeniable proof that they contained Platonic, Jewish, and Christian language, meaning they couldn't possibly be as ancient as claimed. Instead of dating back to Moses' time, these texts were written between the 1st and 3rd centuries AD in Alexandria. This discovery, combined with church opposition and the rise of modern science, led to Hermeticism's apparent downfall. But did it really die? Absolutely not. It went underground, giving birth to secret societies like the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Then in 1945, something extraordinary happened near Nag Hammadi in Egypt. 3 new Hermetic writings were discovered, and one of them, the Discourse on the Ogdoad and Ennead, proved beyond doubt that ancient Hermetic believers underwent initiation through several grades before transcending the planetary spheres to behold and unite with God. Scholar Gilles Quispel made an astounding declaration. It is now completely certain that there existed before and after the beginning of the Christian era in Alexandria a secret society, akin to a Masonic lodge. These weren't just scholars reading books. They were initiates who called themselves brethren, underwent baptism of the Spirit, greeted each other with sacred kisses, and celebrated sacred meals while reading Hermetic texts for spiritual progress. Modern scholars have helpfully divided Hermetic literature into 2 categories. First, you have the technical Hermetica texts dealing with astrology, medicine, botany, alchemy, and magic that may date back to the 2nd or 3rd century BC. Then there's the religio-philosophical Hermetica, mystical teachings written between the 1st and 3rd centuries AD, with the Corpus Hermeticum as the core text. Here's what's crucial to understand: the purpose of these texts isn't to argue their truth through logic. Their meaning lies in the transformation they create in readers' hearts, awakening them to ultimate truth. This is why finding the right translation is so important, one that captures the inspirational intent rather than just the literal words. Now, you might be wondering where to start your own journey into Hermeticism. Many people first encounter these teachings through the Kybalion by the 3 initiates. While this isn't an ancient text and contains a lot of new thought philosophy, it can serve as an excellent gateway to the original sources. For the real deal, you want Brian Copenhaver's translation of the Hermetica, which includes the Corpus and Asclepius with detailed notes. If you want to go deeper, M. David Litwa's Hermetica II completes the picture with 29 fragments, including the fascinating Daughter of the Cosmos. which suggests that all knowledge, medical, magical, and otherwise, is essential for salvation. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is something most people completely miss. The Hermetic path isn't about philosophical debate or intellectual understanding. It's about achieving altered states of consciousness that reveal the true nature of reality behind what ancient texts call the hallucinatory veil of appearances. At the heart of Hermetic teaching lies a mind-shattering realization. You are fundamentally no different from the supreme source of all existence. This isn't just positive thinking or spiritual wishful thinking. This is gnosis, a complete, immediate transformation characterized as a second birth. Understanding gnosis is absolutely crucial, so pay close attention here. The word gnosis means knowledge, but it's radically different from regular knowledge. Regular knowledge, what the Greeks called episteme, is propositional. It's knowing what something is through description, logic, or observation. Gnosis is knowledge through direct experience. You know because you've seen and lived it, not because you can describe it. This distinction exists in many languages but has been lost in English. Spanish has saber for factual knowledge and conocer for experiential knowledge. French has savoir and connaître. German has wissen and kennen. This isn't just linguistic trivia, it points to a fundamental truth about two completely different ways of knowing reality. Carl Jung perfectly captured this when someone asked if he believed in God. Believe, Jung replied. Hard to say, I know, I don't need to believe. Jung had experienced something that convinced him of God's reality. He didn't believe in God, he knew God. And by God, he didn't mean some bearded figure on a throne, but being itself, what ancient sages described as an infinite sphere, the center of which is everywhere, the circumference nowhere. According to Hermetic cosmology, your soul originally existed in perfect non-dual consciousness outside the cosmos, beyond space and time. But when it descended through the planetary spheres into your body, it became corrupted by what the texts call demonic tormentors of darkness, representing the sins and vices that now dominate human behavior. Here's the crucial point. The problem isn't your body. The problem is the passions that have taken residence within your body. Right now, at this very moment, you're living in a state of hallucination. Your true nature lies in the disembodied state, and life's only real purpose is reuniting with that original perfection. But here's where Hermeticism differs radically from Gnosticism, and this difference is absolutely vital to understand. Gnostics believed the material world was a prison created by an evil demiurge, and escape was only possible after death. Hermeticists believe the opposite. You can attain spiritual enlightenment while alive, and your task isn't to escape the world but to bring the good, true, and beautiful into it. The cosmos isn't an inferior creation, it's described as beautiful and perfect. While Gnosticism is dualistic, Hermeticism is primarily non-dualistic. There's only one reality, the spiritual light that's the source of everything. When you understand this, you realize why Hermeticists are world-affirming rather than world-denying. The Hermetic universe consists of 10 spheres arranged in a specific hierarchy. At the bottom, you have the classical 7 planets circling Earth, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, plus the sphere of fixed stars. But beyond the realm of space and time lie 3 additional spheres: the Ogdoad, Ennead, and the One. The Ogdoad, the 8th sphere, is where souls reside before descending into bodies. Every soul born into flesh is immediately corrupted by pain and pleasure. Those who live with reverence return to this realm of souls after death. The Ennead, the 9th sphere, contains the ultimate essence of the soul, which is divine light itself. This is the home of Nous, often translated as intellect or mind, but these translations completely miss its true meaning. Nous is nothing like abstract reasoning. It's more like intuition, imagination, or divine revelation. It's spiritual sight that encompasses everything at once, even God's infinite essence. Nous is your vehicle for gnosis, your spiritual capacity to directly access universal light. The light of Nous is identical to your own inner light, though you might become blinded by its presence. The Hermeticist seeks to recognize that their inner light is identical with universal light, allowing ascension to the 10th sphere, the One, the Good, the source of everything. This is God, who created the universe by imagining it. You exist in God's imagination. All is one and one is all. The physical reflects the mental, and the mental reflects the physical. Everything visible has been made, but God himself remains invisible. The Hermetic God is unbegotten, transcendent, androgynous, and the source of everything. He contains everything within himself. The cosmos emanates from him and becomes alive through him. You can come to know God by acquiring knowledge of the cosmos, because the second God, the cosmos, is made in the image of the first God. You've been created in the image of the cosmos, but as the Father willed, you don't live like other earthly creatures. You have affinity with the second God and conception of the first. You perceive the second God as a body, but the first you conceive as without body as Nous, the supreme good, the highest reality in the cosmos and your true identity. God, the cosmos, and humanity are hierarchically and inextricably linked. You're in contact with both levels and form a unit with them. This is why stars and planets influence earthly existence, and why you're represented as an image of God while everything exists imbued with pneuma, divine breath or life force. The Hermetica is designed to aid your spiritual growth through stages of initiation into the Hermetic mysteries, ultimately leading to union with God. This happens by developing 3 faculties: logos, gnosis, and nous. You develop logos, reasonable speech, by listening closely to divine wisdom and engaging in dialogue with those who possess it. The ancient texts state, the listener should be of one mind and soul with the speaker, and his hearing should be quicker than the voice of the speaker. The second faculty, gnosis, requires silence and meditation to develop nous. Since nous conceives speech in silence, only speech arising from silence brings salvation. Knowledge becomes spiritual awakening when you realize the Supreme God wants to be known, and can indeed be known by those worthy of him. This cannot happen without piety or reverence. The teachings generally take the form of dialogues between teacher and disciple, believed to originate from collections of sayings learned by heart and used as spiritual exercises to develop mental faculties. These sayings get mysteriously carved into memory. You don't easily forget them, and they continue working on your mind even when you're not thinking about them. In Book 1 of the Corpus, a figure calling himself Poimanders, the nous of the Supreme, teaches Hermes, who appears not as a god but as a human being with divine knowledge. The text begins with Hermes reflecting on the world's creation when Poimanders appears and states, "I know what you want, and I am with you everywhere." When Hermes expresses his desire to learn about reality, understand its nature, and know God, he enters an ecstatic altered state of consciousness leading to profound visions. The Hermetica consistently states that beyond normal sight exists a higher faculty, the eyes of the heart or mind, that perceives the true nature of regenerated humanity. In response to questions about reality's nature, Poimanders transforms his appearance, and the visionary sees unlimited expanses of clear, joyful light, experiencing spontaneous feelings of love. Then appears frightening snake-like darkness, watery and smoking like fire, producing wailing roars and inarticulate cries. This call is answered by the Holy Word, the Son of God, descending from light onto dark nature. The soul travels this way, nous in the Word in the soul in the body. Animals were created without the Word, but God the Father brought forth anthropos humanity, whom he loved as his own child, bearing his image. God really loved his own form and handed over all creation to humanity. This is why, of all earthly beings, only humans are double mortal through the body, immortal through the soul. Being both material and spiritual gives you the unique ability to bring spiritual reality into physical form. A second visionary episode answers how to know God. Hermes must fix his noose on the light and get acquainted with it. He stares into Poimender's eyes until trembling at the appearance, then has sudden realization. While staring at universal light, he's paradoxically looking into himself. There's no distinction between universal light and his own light, between subject and object. This is total unity. When Poimenders releases his gaze, the light that is the visionary himself becomes a boundless cosmos archetypal reality before an infinite beginning. Humans endowed with nous are immortal. The pursuit of pleasure, desire, and materialism causes death, spiritual death. It's better to die outwardly than inwardly. He who recognized himself came to the supreme good, while he who prized the body, born from desire's illusion, remained wandering in darkness, suffering through the senses the things of death. The truth is this: light and life are God and Father from whom humanity is begotten. If you realize yourself as being from life and light, made from them, you will return to life. Nous aids the devout, noble, pure, merciful, and pious. Through lives full of love, they win God's favor and lovingly give thanks, praising and singing hymns in due order. Those who are evil, envious, greedy, murderous, and ungodly remain far from nous, possessed by avenging spirits who assault them through the senses with fiery darts, torturing them with increasing fire. We all have these tormentors of darkness within us. Poimenders describes how souls must travel through all 7 planetary spheres to purify themselves. After this catharsis, souls finally leave the cosmos and join the 8th sphere beyond space and time, where present souls rejoice together, and having become companions, they hear powers above the 8th sphere singing beautiful praises to God. Souls ascend to the Father, surrender to the powers, and enter into God. This is the end, the supreme good for those who have had higher knowledge, to become God. Why do you delay? Having received all, should you not become guide to those who are worthy, so the human race may be saved by God through you? Hermes becomes filled with light and enlightened with nous. When the vision ends, he offers thanksgiving with his whole soul, becoming a prophet to spread received teachings, awakening us from spiritual sleep and drunkenness to claim our immortal birthright. Many gave themselves to death while having power to partake of immortality. Some mocked and ignored his teachings. Others threw themselves at his feet, wanting salvation. The soul's great disease is denial of God. Next is belief in appearances, and accompanying these are all evils and nothing good. But nous, acting in opposition to disease, secures good for the soul, just as physicians secure health for the body. Ultimate truth cannot be found through philosophical reasoning, but through divine revelation. This is why the corpus begins with a vision. In Book 13, perhaps the corpus's most important section, Thoth has a tense dialogue with Hermes, wishing to know the secret of spiritual rebirth. Hermes speaks in riddles because this knowledge cannot be taught. Awakening must come from within. Gnosis is only knowable through direct experience. In Zen, this is called great doubt, spiritual and psychological pressure from life's struggles leading to awakening. At great doubt's bottom lies great awakening. Until it happens to you personally, you won't understand what it's about. While masters can point directions, pupils must meditate alone and work on their own souls. Hermes tells his son about 12 tormentors: ignorance, sorrow, intemperance, lust, injustice, greed, deceit, envy, treachery, anger, recklessness, and malice. These correspond to the 12 zodiacal signs. Your emotional combination depends on constellation placement at birth-specific moment. describable precisely by examining where stars and heavenly bodies are positioned, functioning like a cosmic clock. When time is right and stars aligned, souls descend into bodies. At this moment, bodies and souls are invaded and possessed by dark entities that remain for most people's entire lives. They constitute our passions, destructive emotions dominating us in countless ways, forming our personality's entire constellation. We suffer not because of bodies, but because of passions within bodies. To attain gnosis, dark powers must be expelled. There's constant battle between light and darkness within us. Hermes invokes 10 light powers into Thoth's body, expelling the 12 darkness powers. After invoking powers like joy, self-control, steadfastness, justice, generosity, and truth, Hermes declares, "See how upon truth's arrival the supreme good arises. Envy has fled far from us." The supreme good, together with life and light, has followed upon truth, and darkness's torments no longer fall upon us, but conquered, they all fly off with wings rush. The first 7 powers overcome darkness powers one by one, and the next 3 life, light, and the supreme good drive out the remaining 5, so all 12 tormentors fly off. After some time, Thoth experiences altered consciousness, divine madness corresponding to higher knowledge. He speaks, "Father, I have been made steadfast through God. I now see not with eyes but by spiritual energies operation in the powers. I am in heaven, in earth, in water, in air. I am in living creatures and plants. I am in the womb, before the womb, after the womb. I am present everywhere. Father, I see thee all, and I see myself in nous." Thoth is no longer troubled by dark forces, but blessed by noetic light powers. Our task is overpowering dark entities with light, so they fly off with wings rush by their own accord. Thoth has experienced spiritual rebirth, gaining cosmic consciousness. He conceives himself in all places simultaneously: earth, sea, heaven, before birth, within womb, young, old, dead, beyond death. By conceiving all things at once, times, places, actions, qualities, quantities, one can understand God. This method is called becoming the Aeon. The Stoics developed the concept of all things sympathy, the living, indivisible coherence of cosmos. Hermeticism and Middle Platonism adopted this. Thoth recites a secret hymn praising God, the hymn of spiritual rebirth. While Thoth has cosmic consciousness, he hasn't yet seen spheres beyond cosmos as Hermes has. This leads to the famous Nag Hammadi writing, the Discourse on the Ogdoad and Ennead. While Book 13 describes pupils' rebirth, this discourse shows already reborn pupils progressing toward Hermetic mysteries. Here we find striking altered consciousness induced by strange magical vowel incantations. When Egyptian priests sang hymns praising gods, they uttered 7 Greek vowels in prescribed order. These vowel sounds were so beautiful that people preferred this music to flute or lyre. 7 vowels correspond to the octave's 7 notes, related to 7 planets. The esoteric songbook of Alexandria's Hermetic community plays central roles at awakening moments described in the Hermetica. Hermes reminds Thoth of progress made through books, which, although belonging to lower stages toward gnosis, remain necessary. But they don't suffice because discursive language simply doesn't get as far as truth. Hermes, Thoth, and several reborn brethren enter deep meditative states. Hermes calls attention to God's supreme divine attributes, including being named only in silence. The prayer contains mysterious words and vowels representing God's secret name. A single voice sings tones answered by choir until all vowels are sung. Chanting intensifies, and with every vowel, pupils' consciousness rises through planetary spheres until reaching the highest level, going beyond cosmos, experiencing the 8th, 9th, and finally the 1, where they see a fountain bubbling with life. The pupil experiences fear, and Hermes tells him to refocus on the hymn. The ascent's final stage must be mastered alone. Verbal instruction is useless. Hermes's guiding words are no longer useful. The pupil expresses himself through silent hymns heard and understood only by interior perception faculty. The most fundamental statement is that what he's seeing cannot be put into words. Initiation is complete. The pupil has found peace and wants to thank God for granting the supreme vision he'd been seeking. A distinction exists between silent contemplation hymns sung during 8th and 9th ecstatic state, and verbal hymns addressed to God afterwards as gratitude signs. Hermes instructs his son to write everything in hieroglyphs, place them in his sanctuary at the right astrological moment, and protect the book with apotropaic formulas designed to avert evil, so future generations can read it. Presumably, this is the very text we've been analyzing. Thoth's writing invention allowed us not to forget what we've experienced, enabling knowledge transmission over time and sharing with future generations. However, this is pharmacan writing heals by providing knowledge but poisons insofar as one forgets direct experience, which is inexpressible. People read books believing they have knowledge access, but this is illusion. Therefore, writing is often poisonous. However, Thoth had a secret. Writing itself can have magical effects on consciousness. Even though language cannot express the ineffable, it can resonate and affect human minds, helping people find their own paths toward gnosis. In Book 16, Asclepius speaks to King Ammon about language dangers obscuring these writings' true intent, which are spiritual, not philosophical. Hermes said they would become more obscure when Greeks translated their language, leading to greater distortion and obscurity. When expressed in original language, text preserves words' pure spirit. Egyptian language's very sound quality and pronunciation carries the power of what's being spoken. Greeks use empty words producing mere displays. That is Greek philosophy, word noise. We don't use such language but sounds full of power. God has endowed humanity beyond all mortal creatures with two gifts, nous and speech, both valued as immortality. Using these gifts rightly, you'll be no different from immortals, and departing from body, you'll be guided by both to God's and blessed one's realm. In the corpus, death doesn't exist, it's illusion. Reality contains only creation and transformation, nothing perishes. Like energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. Humanity is microcosm reflecting macrocosm, as above, so below. When body dissolves, it's absorbed back into nature, and soul is absorbed in cosmos, returning to the unmanifest so new creatures may come to be. Cosmos is never destroyed. Cycles are continual rotation and mystery is renewal. Reality's true nature isn't mortality but immortality. Hermes tells his son, "Have you not heard in general teaching that all souls wandering around the whole cosmos, as if separate, are from a single soul, the soul of all? Indeed, there are many transformations of these souls, some more fortunate, others less. Those which are reptiles change into aquatic creatures into earth creatures into air fowls, airborne into humanity. Human souls gaining immortality transform into spirits, and thence to God's choruses. When one dies with soul affliction, one cannot partake of supreme good. This is the only real death, spiritual death of cyclical rebirth. Soul turns back on its journey to reptiles, and that's evil soul's condemnation. Reptiles are considered lowly chthonic creatures. In the Bible, snakes are condemned by God for tricking Adam and Eve into eating forbidden fruit from knowledge's tree, and must crawl on bellies and eat dust all life's days. We think we're alive. Reality is we're dead, and when we die, we become alive, that is, if we become united with God by leading reverent lives. For Hermeticists, humanity is divine and not to be counted among others or even among heaven's so-called gods. Humanity exists at once in earth, sea, and heaven. Indeed, If we must speak truth boldly, true humanity is above gods, or at least fully their equal in power. Not one heavenly god will leave heaven's boundaries and come down to earth, but humanity ascends to heaven and measures it, knows high from low, and understands all other things there exactly. And even more amazing, ascends while not leaving earth. So great is humanity's range. Thus, one may say humanity on earth is mortal God, and heavenly God is immortal humanity. Therefore, everything is controlled by these two. Humanity and cosmos, but all is from the one. Soul's evil is ignorance of God. For souls, knowing nothing of supreme good, are blind and shake with bodily pains, tormented by darkness. If we don't make ourselves equal to God, we cannot understand Him. Like is understood by like. Allow yourself to grow larger until you equal Him who is immeasurable, outleap all that is corporeal, transcend all time and become the Aeon. Then you will understand God. God doesn't ignore humanity. He knows humanity fully, as God also wishes to be known. This is humanity's only salvation, knowledge of God. This is ascent to God's highest abode. We can choose between mortality or immortality. It's inferior choice that destroys humanity. Those with rage and lust mixture don't value things worthy of attention, but turn to body's pleasures and appetites, believing humanity was born for that reason, or mistake these greatest evils as greatest goods. There are two kinds of beings, embodied and unembodied, in whom there is mortal and divine spirit. Humanity is left to choose one or the other, if desired, for one cannot choose both at once. When one is diminished, it reveals the other's power. This is the choice that defines your entire existence. Will you remain trapped in the illusion of mortality, or will you awaken to your true divine nature? The path of Hermes Trismegistus offers not just knowledge, but transformation. Not just understanding, but union with the divine source of all creation. The wisdom of the Thrice Great isn't just ancient history. It's a living tradition that continues to guide seekers toward the ultimate realization that you are not separate from the divine, but are the divine expressing itself through human experience. As above, so below. As within, so without. All is one and one is all.